You were alive, and we're counting down from 10, and it's 10, and it's 9, and it's 8, and 7, 6, and it's 5, and 4, and it's 3, and it's 2, and it's 1.
Oh, God. What's up, Nerdferders? Welcome back to the N.A.P. It has been a little bit. It has been a little bit. I don't know. Maybe we're just lazy. I don't know what it is. we both have schedules. I mean, you had
we haven't been not doing this because we were lazy. I had too much shit on my plate, and so did you.
I mean, Josh had his first con of the year. I have a single for my band releasing tonight at midnight.
I know, it's awesome.
So I mean, it's just like our second. So I've been and a music video that we're working on. So I've been scrambling for that. You've got another book that you're working on.
I've got a ton of stuff.
You had a con that you were doing. We just built you a PC.
You spent the afternoon over here building this new rig for me, which is great because my computer was going to shit.
Did you take a picture? Because I completely spaced on taking a photo of it.
I took a picture of you while you were doing it, but
Jesus, we don't need to see that one though.
Okay, yeah, I'll have to take I don't have a picture ready for this, but it's under the desk now. It's all glowing and everything. Maddie came in last night and she was like, "Oh, look, it's just like the ones at Nebraska Furniture Mart." And I was like, "No. It's got colors, but it's so much better than the ones at Nebraska Furniture Mart."
It's not a cool PC if there aren't some LED rainbow lights in there for it at all.
Yeah.
No, we've been crazy swamped, and in normal Nerdferder fashion, I guess when WandaVision was out, we were keeping pretty regular as far as the episodes go.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we did a recap just about every week.
Sure.
For the most part. For this show, yeah, we were just crazy scramble trying to get everything put together. There were some episodes that we ended up doing that just didn't match up with the schedule between everything that was going on, and then today just happened to work out really well, and the Oscars were over the weekend. So we've got some Oscars recap for you. We've got Invincible to talk about, which is an excellent animated superhero series on Amazon Prime if you're not watching it already. But so we'll give a spoiler free chit chat about the first few episodes, because I don't know how many episodes there are. I can't remember.
Spoiler free. I don't know about spoiler free. We're going to talk a little bit about it. We don't have to break it down, but yeah, we got to talk a little bit.
We got to talk about it last though, because I don't want to have
it's in the back.
Winter Soldier.
No.
But yeah, we'll talk full Falcon and Winter Soldier. The spoiler embargo for Falcon and Winter Soldier is lifted. Marvel has always been about having the Monday after their releases be the spoiler free embargo, or the spoiler embargo being lifted away. So we will talk about that in full spoilers.
Oh my gosh,
some lightning round stuff for you, but
I just pulled up our I pulled up our YouTube to see when the last time we did talk about Winter Soldier, and I'm like, what are all these other clips? And you got up all the trailer reactions we did. So I mean, we did do something since we've met last time. Yeah, we did a bunch of trailer reactions.
That was the bulk of our content over the last few weeks. Was just was waiting to get those things out there, and then boom, here it goes. Crap load of trailer reactions, because there were a lot of trailer reactions that came out. We missed Shang-Chi. I ended up watching the Shang-Chi reaction, or the trailer. And I didn't film a reaction at the time, but I don't know. It felt like it had been a long time since we've done the actual. When was the actual N.A.P? When was the last actual?
It's 3 weeks ago.
That we did. Yeah. Okay. So it's been a little bit.
March 31st. I believe we covered the first 2 episodes or first 3 episodes of Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
It would have had to have been the first 2 at that point.
We got as far as the Isaiah Bradley episode. So wherever that fell in.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that was pretty early on.
Yeah.
No, but yeah. So what do we have lined up on the timeline?
Let's do Oscars first.
Oscars?
Yeah, let's do Oscars, because I want to get into Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but we can't not talk about the Oscars, even though I completely forgot They were even this weekend.
Dude, I don't know shit about any of the movies that are in there either, man.
Honestly, this is the first year I've been more invested in the Golden Globes than the Oscars because, Queen's Gambit and all the TV we watched over the past year. If you want to go talk about the winners, and the losers and everything, I feel like people can go to another podcast for that. But I thought we'd talk about some of the big things of the night. So they tried to do things a little bit differently. They held it in in a train station, which was really cool. They kind of rotated the stars in and out throughout the evening so that people could get in and out of there. And Steven Soderbergh produced it, which was kind of cool. So instead of like this, instead of like a number or something in the beginning, they had this really cool
full screen that thing.
Yeah, I'm trying to. They had this really cool. They had this really cool opening that had Questlove's music that just kind of followed Regina King walking through from the outside to the inn with the Oscars. It was kind of cool. I kind of dug this. It was a cool got me ready, got me grooving. I dug it.
Yeah, I don't know.
They were trying to make it more of a show or production, at least from the start.
I have never been like a huge Oscars or award show watcher at all, honestly. I feel like, and I mean, there's been a lot of people in the industry who have kind of expressed similar criticisms around how it's really not. It's really not about what the best content was that year, or it's not about who had the best acting performance. It's who marketed it better, to
a degree.
But
I mean, you could look at it
than people were happy with.
Sure, but I mean, at the same time, you got to celebrate, especially when the movie business is, going through a lot of challenges in the past year. So, I think they felt that they needed to have something, they needed to have something, especially after such a hard year for the movie business. So it was cool to see them do something, and you could tell they were definitely doing something a little different this year. This right here doesn't look anything like what we normally see for the Oscars. It's definitely a different vibe.
Whenever the Oscars come out of the Golden Globes or something like that, my first instinct is to just look through and kind of look for the programs that I was already interested in maybe watching that I hadn't caught, and then being like, oh, okay, and then we should definitely check that thing out. Ma Rainey's Black Bottom was something that I was interested in, mainly because Chadwick Boseman was in it. And I wanted to get more Chadwick Boseman in my life. Now that what we have available is all we'll get, which really blows. The fact that Mulan, I guess Mulan getting because I'm looking at costume design right now. Ma Rainey's Black Bottom actually won for costume design because that's what I'm interested in is the behind the scenes stuff. Sure. The best actor, best supporting actor. I don't care as much about that as I do about best cinematography, which was Eric Messerschmidt for Mank. And then, the cinematography nominations just also kind of points me in the direction for the films that I might end up wanting to see. So we've got Judas and the Black Messiah, Mank, News of the World, Nomadland, and then The Trial of the Chicago 7, which you had recommended to me on several occasions, and is now I don't think that it won anything.
No, it didn't do well for the Oscars. It did well in other award shows, but not really.
It did great as far as getting nominations. It showed up in a lot of different categories, which, if you want to, if they didn't market it well enough to the people who were voting for them. I don't know.
Well, and it's definitely an odd year this year. They had a lot of late voting. I mean, I think this is one of the oddball years where even some of the bigger pictures most people haven't seen. I mean, in fact, I haven't seen most of these films. I've seen Judas and the Black Messiah. I've actually seen the foreign film that won another round. I've seen that one of all the films. But yeah, most of the ones that were nominated for Best Picture, Promising Young Woman has been on my list. Father has been on my list. Sound of Metal, Minari. All these are ones that I've wanted to see. Nomadland, I wasn't like particularly drawn into by the trailer, but I felt that I would eventually see it. I've seen Tenet. But yeah, I mean, this was just it was definitely an odd year,
Did Tenet deserve Best Visuals?
Well, let's see here. Based on the other ones, it definitely was better than Midnight Sky. The one and only Ivan was the gorilla movie that I haven't seen. Definitely better than Love and Monsters, and definitely better than Mulan. So unless the one and only Ivan knocked it out of the park, I would think that would be the only thing that it would be qualified for was visual. Certainly not sound design. Dear God. Let's not even get back into that conversation.
Seeing a film all about like music end up winning Best Sound made a lot of sense to me. I mean, just as a musician myself, I would have hoped achievement in sound.
But yeah, the Sound of Metal won. Cool. that was great. That's really great. Film editing, Sound of Metal won. That's awesome.
Yeah. I need to check out Soul, because Soul got a couple wins in there as well.
Tyler Perry won
just the one win.
Humanitarian award. That's awesome. Tyler Perry.
Award. Soul, animated feature film, and then they got nominated for achievement in sound.
Yeah. So.
Okay. Yeah, they did have a couple wins. I knew there was a second one in here. They got best original score.
Yeah. Yep.
So
one of the things that's
right now, dude?
That's always controversial, or always has something wrong with it. Like it's the thing that happens every year and they just can't get it right. And it's the in memoriam segment. Okay. So one of the things that people noticed last night was that they took out a lot of the sketches. They took out a lot of the shenanigans. It was still a long production, but at the beginning things were clipping along, but then it just started to drag pace towards the last hour and a half of the Oscars. But somehow, even though they were clipping along in the beginning, they still only had 4 minutes and 40 seconds to dedicate to the in memoriam section. And Angela Bassett does this really good, really strong minute and 30 second opening for this. And then they just breeze through the in memoriam section. I mean, they do it where have you seen Baby Driver? You know how they match things up with the beat of the music. So they do that with the names, and it's really fast. So once we get into this, which some of these names, like Ian Holm, I guess I must have missed that he died last year. That was crazy.
Bilbo was a sad one.
And so we're getting through
Bilbo
here. I remember Joel.
Cloris Leachman were two of the big ones for me.
See, now we start clipping along here. As I'm not going to play the music because we'll probably get ticked for the music. But once it starts getting into the song's a very upbeat song, and it just starts pushing through them. I mean, even right now, it's pretty good. It's, you're given some time to read the names, but then it starts picking up, and it goes faster and faster.
I saw Irfan Khan go through in there, like.
Yeah, well, if you blink, you'll miss half these names because they just keep on going, and then it slows down a little bit, and it picks up with the song, and it's just like, you could have maybe not picked such an upbeat song to just fly by. But there's a lot of people that died in the last year, or at least since the last Oscars. And
I didn't know Fred Willard died.
Yeah. I was surprised by a lot of these names. I remembered some like Sean Connery and Chadwick Boseman And but some of these I either forgot about them or I just didn't know it happened.
I did forget about Sean Connery. That one sucked.
Yeah. So I mean, they just start like, I would hate to be the person that decides which name gets 4 seconds on screen and which name gets a half a second on screen. But it's like maybe don't pick an upbeat song to run these names through.
I mean, how long of a list did they have compared to other years? Like, is this?
I mean, they did have a long list, but maybe give it longer than 3 minutes to go through. I don't know. If you only have 4 minutes and 40 seconds, maybe don't let the presenter have 1 minute and 40 of those 4 minutes. I mean, otherwise it just feels weird when it does slow down, and then you're like, they threw DMX in there. That was last minute.
It's pretty interesting.
But then when it does slow down, then you're just like, okay, so are these like more important than the ones that they skipped over super fast, or how do you do that? Yeah, I'm sure it's a weird game of, like Sean Connery and Chadwick definitely get the longest ones. So does that mean they were the most important of those that died? It's kind of a weird setup, and then you're like, at the end of it, you're like, oh, how do I feel about this? It's just awkward. It's so awkward.
I don't know. It's kind of like, why have this? Why have this section of the thing? Because I mean,
I do like this though. This was cool when they had the names around it. But yeah, I agree. Why have it?
It's kind of like, you're gonna make people mad either way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you really are. Like, so the only reason that I knew that the Oscars were going on is because there's a bunch of there was a bunch of controversy specifically around Chadwick Boseman not winning for Best Actor.
Yes.
And I won't say a bunch of controversy, but there was enough.
Oh, no, there was a lot. It was heavy. It was trending last night. It was pretty heavy.
Inside my circle of what I pay attention to, there wasn't a huge amount of outrage. There was enough. But yes, there was a lot outside. I mean, Twitter was going fucking crazy. At the same time, I'm just like, I can understand what they might have done. I mean, like I said, I haven't seen Father, so I don't know how well Anthony Hopkins did. I mean, the latest thing that I've seen Anthony Hopkins in was that weird ass Easter video that you showed me. Like, that's the most recent piece of content I've seen out of him. But
well, I've heard his movie was really good, but I haven't seen it yet either.
Like, you know what? It could be a situation where it's like, you know what? This is kind of what it comes down to. Is like, okay, did you market it properly? Because that seems to be such a big factor in who ends up winning these things.
So you like the behind the scenes stuff. So there is some interesting behind the scenes stuff with what went down. So Chadwick was thought to be the shoe-in for this. He's been winning. He's been cleaning up in the last couple of awards, the SAG awards, everything. He was what everybody thought was the best bet. However, because they had some late voting in the past couple weeks, and Anthony Hopkins, the father, apparently was resonating really well with some of the with some of the Academy that were voting. So things started shaking up. However,
maybe it was because he was more relatable because the Academy is all 1 million years old.
I don't know. I don't know. But here's the thing. I don't think it would have been as there's some people, because there's two sides to this. There's some people that believe Chadwick Boseman has passed. He passed young. He will never get the chance to be nominated again. And there's some people that believe flat out you should have just given it to him because he's not going to get another chance again. In fact, some people went the extra mile to say this is an example of white privilege because you gave it to Heath Ledger. However, I am of the camp that says Heath Ledger's performance beat out all of the other performances in his category.
Yeah, that's not a fair comparison to make.
It's not. I don't think it's an example of white privilege at all.
When you have a performance that then becomes the baseline, for a good performance, especially when it comes to a role. I mean, you cannot have somebody say it's like, "Oh, I'm playing Joker." It's like, "Oh, okay, you can do better than Heath." Like,
Yeah.
or it was like, "How are you gonna try and play it like Heath?" Or it was like, "Or you fucking better not play it like Heath."
Right.
Like, and I feel like that would have existed had Heath still not passed away.
Right. I agree. But I think a lot of the people that generally say that the Oscars are rigged, a lot of those same people were saying that you should have just given it to Chadwick Boseman because he's not going to get another chance. So they weren't necessarily, in fact, a lot of those people hadn't even seen the role. They weren't necessarily saying that his was the best performance, but that you should award him because he passed and because he won't get the chance, or because Anthony Hopkins already had one. And you can't complain one year that the Oscars are rigged and then basically say they should have rigged it this year. But then the other part of this argument is the way they set it up last night made it even worse, because last night was the first time in anybody can ever remember that they didn't end with Best Picture. Best Picture happened before Best Actor and Best Actress. For some reason, they moved it up. And Best Actor was the last award to be given. And the behind the scenes of this is that nobody knows who the winners are except the accounting firm that does the voting. So the producers don't even know who the winners are, but the producers were gambling that Chadwick Boseman was going to win. So they thought they would end the night on a better note of celebrating him at the end instead of Best Picture at the end. But then the winner ended up being somebody else, and that person was asleep in his bed in Wales. So it was the most anticlimactic ending to a multi-hour program on TV, and their gamble went south, and it made it all worse.
It just comes down again to like, even hearing the outrage that people are having. I'm just like, God, I don't care. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, it was tragic that Chadwick had to die when he did. I mean, cancer is a real fucking bitch. But I don't know, the whole just give it to him mentality, I think, is bullshit.
I don't agree with that either. Granted, like, I have hand to God not seen either of these two movies, and if he deserved it, he should have got it. But just to give it to him because he doesn't have the chance to get it nominated again isn't fair.
I have a pretty good feeling that he probably wouldn't sign on to that belief either.
Yeah.
I mean, he works his ass off. Like, if he didn't win something, or it was like, I would hate to find out personally that, like, let's say, like, it is not my dream by any means to win Best Director or Best Picture for one of my original creations that I hope to have in the next couple decades. Like, that's not a dream of mine. The dream is to actually get them done. But if I were to have an untimely death, and I was in the contention for Best Picture, and then I had an untimely death, to find out that was the thing that pushed my performance up into a winning spot that it hadn't necessarily earned yet, I would be really upset. I'd be like, because I would want my product, I would want my content to stand on its own 2 feet without some sort of marketable tragedy to throw on top of it. And I know that is a terrible word, and I'm not making that comparison to Chadwick Boseman's death because it was horrible. I mean, it was like, he's part of the Marvel family. He made one of, if not the best like leading characters in that show. Like, that's not one of like the original. He's absolutely the best leading character who's not one of the original Avengers. Like, if you're not talking about Captain America or Iron Man, I mean, honestly, I'd put him up there. I'd put him right up there in the top echelon with like the major players, and he earned that. Like, because in Endgame he got his own signature panel. Like they considered him one of the OGs. Like, I mean, but if I were to find out that, and again, this is just me, it's like I got the nomination. Awesome. That's fucking dope. Worked my
And
ass
clearly,
off. It
people
got
believe that
recognized.
that was a worthy nomination. That wasn't a token nomination by any means. But yeah, go ahead.
The fact that that level of support is there would be enough for me. Than just to have some golden statue that fucking dude. I have trophies now from stuff that I've won before. I have no idea where they are right now. I have no idea where they are right now. Like. I don't see Chadwick Boseman as somebody who would have been walking around being like, yeah, I won an Oscar, or telling people about it, or like using it as some sort of like he was in it for the art.
Then again,
I just don't see anybody.
Now I've seen that argument, and I apparently both you and I disagree with it, that just because you passed, you shouldn't be given the award. I've also seen the other side of that argument that believes that Anthony Hopkins was given the award because he's 83 years old and his time is not, he's not going to be around for much longer. A lot of people believed that all of these roles were great, but none of them were really that much better than the other one.
The fact that they had Gary Oldman in there, who still hasn't won an Oscar, considering how many times he's been nominated and how many amazing roles he's played and how much amazing acting that fucking man has done. I'd be more upset about that he got snubbed again.
Well, nobody even mentioned Gary Oldman's name. And I'm sure Gary Oldman's just like, you can keep my name out of it, but I did work hard.
He didn't care. he likes making shit.
The one other part of this that people did bring up was that, hey, not only did Chadwick Boseman die, but he was dying when he filmed this movie. And he was dying then, and they said how many other people gave their last moments of their precious life to their work. And I think that is a valid argument. Again, I haven't seen the two films to judge them separately, but I think that adds a little more depth to it than just he died, he should get it. However,
there's too many other factors to try and consider on top of all that, though. It's like,
well, I get it. I know it's a deeper thing than that, but it didn't help that the producers of last night's event set it up. Like, why else would they change what they've done for the last 3 decades? Why would they change the order of the Oscars just to say, oh, this guy got it, and it's the end of the show? Like, there wasn't a speech because Anthony Hopkins couldn't come. He's old. He didn't want to make the travel. He was asleep in his bed in Wales. So they just said Anthony Hopkins won. The Academy accepted on his behalf. That was literally the end of the show. So clearly the producers thought that Chadwick was going to win because they thought this was going to be a high, heavy note for the night. Maybe they shouldn't have gambled like that and set themselves up, because it made it, people noticed it more, I think, because of that. Because everybody was like, well, clearly they've made this epic change in the order of the announcements to celebrate Chadwick at the end, especially since he's won this award at almost every ceremony up into there. And so when it didn't happen, it just made it even more awkward. And I think they could have avoided that by not gambling like that. I think they shot themselves in the face with this, honestly. I think half of the blame is the Academy because they built it up and then they didn't have the payoff that they thought they were going to have. And, maybe they should know if they're going to make gambling choices like that. Maybe they should know who the winner is just in case they fall on their face.
I feel like it's a combination of a lot of things. It might just be the disconnect that these industries have with the fans anymore. There's probably a ton of factors here. Somebody just dropped the ball. I don't know. But
they've never changed the order.
It's a weird ship for me to be sailing on because, one, I don't care about the Oscars. So at the same time, I have like this meritorious stance around it. I was like, well, if he didn't get the votes, he didn't get the votes. But at the same time, it's like, well, I don't care about the Oscars. Why not just give it to them? It's like,
Mhm.
I mean, you're a marketing tool anyway. Like if you want to, but the Oscars are no stranger to controversy
Nope.
by any means whatsoever. They come back every single year, and people are just as excited. Like the people who are excited about the Oscars are just as excited about them every single year, no matter what actually happens to it.
Yeah.
Like, and so it's one of those stupid industries that it's like, you know what? It's almost, man, it's almost just routine for the Oscars to come and have a bunch of controversy around it, stirring shit up.
Oh yeah, there's
Like
always a case of this person should have won or this person shouldn't have won. That's a
necessarily
thing.
on this scale. I'll give you that. Like the controversy generally isn't always this bad, but yeah, I mean, I think the fact that it had a lot to do with, I don't know, there might be a lot of, like you said, there was a lot of people talking about how it was white privilege, and racial tensions in America are in no good spot right now.
But I honestly think that was a lower part of that. I think that was an extremist part of that argument. I don't think a lot of people were throwing that around. It was an easy comparison, but it was a lazy comparison. I think most people were quick to shoot down. But
depending on the crowd that you've got, I don't
know.
But honestly, I think we can put this one to bed because, like, I don't know. First of all, I don't think either of us are invested enough in the Oscars to.
I'm always interested in those technical flubs. You know, I mean, the La La Land incident was a matter of them giving them the wrong envelopes, and this. I mean, again, I think this would have gone down as another case of this person should have won over this person. But the fact that they changed the order of the presentation, which hasn't happened since the Oscars have been on television. Like, no one can remember the last time Best Picture was not last. And the fact that they purposely changed it because they were hoping this would be the finale, it just made it all that much worse. So I was intrigued by that because I felt like they really did this to themselves. But yeah, let's get on to the Winter Soldier, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, because, you know, I've been wanting to talk about this for a while.
Well,
we haven't broke it down, like you said.
We just we got busy. We got busy.
We still watched it. We just haven't talked about it.
We talked about the first few, and we're talking about it right after its finale. Like, I mean, it was just a few days ago. The spoiler embargo just got lifted, and so Marvel is going to start like putting stuff. I mean, I've already seen. Well, we're talking spoiler free at this moment, but yeah. For my rapid fire, let's see. Let's call it a one-line review. Falcon and Winter Soldier is a lot of heart packed into a runtime that is too short, causing an extremely messy narrative, but with good character development and great character moments and enough fun to keep you interested. I think that's if I had to like publish a quick line about the show, that would be it. Lot of heart, great character moments, too few episodes, and a messy narrative as a result.
Mine would be Falcon and the Winter Soldier is, as Kevin Feige promised, a 6-hour movie with all the pros and cons of what that means. Unlike WandaVision, I didn't feel like this was filmed and edited to be serialized. It felt like a 6-hour movie that they just chose where to stop each episode. Like, there wasn't like giant cliffhangers at the end of each episode. In fact, most of the times it cut off, it just cut off between scenes. It didn't even feel like that was a natural, you know, when you're watching episodic television that there's a flow to each episode. It ends. It's not just cutting it in the middle of a scene and then because you ran out of runtime for that episode, you know. So,
I mean, if it hadn't been for the recaps at the beginning of every episode, it would have flown together perfectly.
And I'm sure you could
But-
watch it that way, just if you skip it. But yeah, it felt like it was just cut up. And just like WandaVision, just like we said before, we both agreed that there could have been one more episode of WandaVision. Well, there was supposed to be more episodes of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. In fact, there was a whole nother arc that involved a plague terrorist attack that we never got because of COVID and because they had to exit filming. So, when I get it, you can't always use that caveat as an excuse, but I do believe that the finished project, what we got, was no better or no worse than what a 6-hour movie would be. There's always room for more, but I thought at least the two people on screen that's the most on screen got the character development that they deserved, and that is why we were here. I never expected this to be a in-game event. I expected this to be more of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and that's what I got.
It wasn't a flop. Like it didn't flop. How do we feel about this one compared to WandaVision? Just in terms of your enjoyment of it. Obviously not trying to compare. I mean, it was a lot more action. There was a lot more. But these characters also call for that.
Sure.
We're talking a completely different genre here. So, I mean, it's not necessarily
it's hard
those comparisons.
Yeah. I think WandaVision was more episodic, so it worked better as a week-to-week thing. I think it had more mystery, so it kept me. It obviously fueled conspiracy theory nuts for weeks, because they just opened and closed the door every 5 seconds. So WandaVision was definitely a different experience. But Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I think the Falcon and Winter Soldier had a better finale. And
100%.
A better finale.
100%.
And I think when you get to the end and you look back, even though they were filmed different and week to week, WandaVision was the better show. I think overall, Falcon and the Winter Soldier was the better block.
I think it was more because we're not we didn't have a film that Falcon and Winter Soldier was directly going to lead into as far as its chronological story. There was definitely going to be some tie-ins from Black Widow that were going to then lead up into this one. But WandaVision was very clearly setting up. I think WandaVision did a better job of setting up the future of MCU properties. It left me, the end of WandaVision left me more excited to see more about what her character was going to do. I know what to expect from the future of Falcon and Winter, of Sam and Bucky. I know generally what to expect there. I don't have as much mystery shrouding that.
But at the same time,
a little bit more excited with it.
Yeah, but you and me are in the know. I mean, this is what we do. Granted, we never get into spoilery stuff, but you and me know that Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is on the way. I don't think WandaVision set that up at all. I don't think I think that's what was supposed to happen, but I don't think it's set up. It gave
that's not necessarily what I mean, though.
Okay.
As far as questions that I have about the characters after their show, how excited I am, how many questions that I need answers to. It's I need to know what happens next. What the hell is going on here? And after the end of WandaVision, I had a lot more questions as to what she was going to do next and how it was going to happen than I do about Falcon and Winter Soldier. I'm sorry, the new Captain America and Winter Soldier.
But is that a bad thing?
No, it's not. It's not.
Because as you said, I don't think the purpose of the show was to set up something else. I think it was just to further flesh out these characters.
I can't call it a bad thing by any means. That'd be kind of an unfair way to put it. I would say that if their intention was to leave us with questions as to what was going to happen next with these characters, they absolutely failed. But it really doesn't feel like that was their intention.
No. I'm interested in what happens with this dude.
Yeah,
The rest of it just felt like, oh, what's Sharon been doing? Oh, what's Baron been doing? It certainly hasn't been wearing that mask.
Let's jump into spoilers. let's jump into spoilers. I think we've done enough tiptoeing.
Okay.
Because like we said, we talked about the first couple episodes already.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to rail on and on about this show because honestly, it wasn't groundbreaking for me, but it wasn't bad either. So, I mean, it was just an enjoyable six episode show. And I've got some complaints. I've got some praises. So, I mean, I don't want to try and go episodic because every time we do that, I rail against it because we both go off on these tangents that just makes it difficult for it to stick to an episodic structure. So I want you to go first. I want you to give me your positives and your negatives. Or we'll do your positives, my positives, and then we'll bounce to the negatives.
All right. My positives, and I got pictures after this, but this is the most of the pictures I have will lightning around through them. They're all last episode stuff. My positives were, holy shit, we got all of the Falcon that we wanted. He carried this film, his story, not only his story, but his charisma, his acting, the tone, everything, every scene he was in was better because he was in it. He was a compelling character from the moment we first saw him in Captain America and the Winter Soldier, which is interesting. That's where we started and that's where we're at now. He was great. His story was great. His motivations were great. And his development was great, from not knowing if he was worthy to not knowing if he should do something, especially when, talking with Isaiah Bradley, to making his own decisions in the end, and taking up the mantle. That, to me, was the strongest part of this show and obviously what it was supposed to. The other strong thing that I really did like was John Walker, because not to praise the toxicity of fans out there, but holy shit, he got people to hate him real fast. And that's both due to his credit as an actor and the credit of the writers, because that dude wasn't on the screen for 5 seconds before people hated him. And
dude,
that
he
was
hadn't
the
even
point.
He hadn't even fucking said anything yet.
He just stood in front of a camera and waved, and people were like, "Kill this man!"
After the first fucking episode, the very end of it, he was literally on screen for like 5 seconds.
Ridiculous.
And the internet had lost their goddamn minds.
So again, not praising the extremists out there that were like death threats and shit. That's ridiculous. But he got you to hate him. He got you to care about him. He got you to question whether or not you really hated him. He took you on roller coasters. His story took you on roller coasters. I was waiting all time for him to just go evil. Like, oh, he secretly has a swastika tattoo on his left shoulder, something like that. That shit never happened. He was a good soldier. He got put in an unimaginable position. He lost his best friend. He had a freak out. And then he has a chance at redemption. I mean, it was a really good story. It was really well written. I could have watched a whole show on that dude. We didn't get it, but we got enough, and that's what I really like.
We're gonna get something with him, that's for sure.
Like
John Walker is probably the most compelling anti-hero that we have had out of them so far. This show actually did a great job with that.
Yeah.
Because even Baron Zemo was supposed to be a villain, but he really didn't seem like a villain in this one. It was kind of like Bucky said, like he's a means to an end, but people ended up like siding with him. And then,
I mean, I think when you watch him, you're like, it's still a slimy dude, but he's entertaining when he's on screen, so
like it was, I didn't view him as a slimy dude. I viewed him as Daniel Bruhl plays this character so well. But Daniel Bruhl is a fucking badass actor either way. Like, I mean, the first thing I saw him in was in Glorious Bastards, and he did such a good job with that movie. I was like, I'm a fan of him like right away. And so when they announced him for Civil War, I was stoked. I was just like, holy shit, this is gonna be awesome.
And he did great in that. He was a very compelling villain in it.
He did he had a great motivation behind it. I feel like the writing kind of made him a little bit weaker than he could have been. But
I
to
agree.
find out what his current motivations are as a remainder, like, he was in line with what his character was, and at the same time, he didn't do anything unexpected. Like, he was just like, you know what, I'm gonna cruise along with these guys because they're gonna help me complete the mission that I've got. And then when he saw the opportunity that he could seize in order to continue to get rid of what he considers like a plague, he does not want super soldiers around. He's like, all right, they're not going to kill him. I'm going to continue to try and push them that that's the only way to do it. And like his adversary in this show was not any of the characters. Like, Zemo's adversary in this film it wasn't even super soldiers. It was the hope that super soldiers could, like, that the flag smashers could end up being reasoned with. It was like that hope that Sam had that he'd be able to like talk these people down was like the main thing that Baron Zemo was contending with in this show.
He was a realist. Yeah.
He was a realist, and when he locked into his ideal, his mind was not going to be changed. But
he had truth in that. He did.
You know, he used it well, and
there's no other person like Steve Rogers.
Yeah, that was like the one contention to his point, and he knew that, and he pointed it out. It was like, touche. But there has never been another Steve Rogers. It's like he knows. He knows what this is leading to, and this is coming from a guy who has absolutely no love for superheroes of any kind.
Right. To the point where even, I could see lesser people saying, oh, well, maybe I'll just take the serum and then the bad guys won't have it, but I'll have it. Nope. This dude's like, the second he gets the chance to destroy it, he destroys it. The second he gets the chance to kill one, he kills them. He doesn't wait. The only exception is Bucky. The only exception is Bucky.
There was no suspense around how he was going to handle that situation. You knew what he was going to do.
Right.
And that was nice, having that predictability, having a character who was like, you know what, he's going to do what he says he's going to do, and he doesn't care how it happens. It's like that is a villain with a motive. I think he played that really well. My biggest complaint is that we did not get more of him, and that he just gets given to the Wakandans at the end of it to get taken to the raft for some reason.
But
I don't understand why the Wakandans have such a relationship with the raft.
Oh, you know why? Because Thunderbolts. Because that's setting up other things. That's clearly a General Ross operation. That was set up. That was clear setup.
Yeah, I mean,
and because they can't afford Wakanda in the show.
Right.
That's the other thing.
I mean, the scene that they did decide to afford Wakanda in this show on was one of my favorite, if not my favorite scene out of the entire show. And that was Io freeing Bucky from, like, testing her and Shuri's work to free him from his Hydra mind control. That was a gorgeous scene. That was a beautiful moment. The music was so good. Sebastian Stan's acting was perfect.
Oh yeah, the fear in his face.
Oh man. And then the happy tears of relief.
The relief, yeah.
Like I cried in that scene. Like it was fucking beautiful.
It was well done. It was well done.
His struggle, like his arc throughout this entire show, again, really well put together. As messy as the narrative was, like, the individual character arcs did a really good job of keeping consistent. Because it was the broader scope of everything that we're like. There really wasn't a clear, I don't know. There wasn't really a clear direction that they seemed to, like. We knew that they were fighting the Flag Smashers, but it seemed to be kind of messy as to, like, why. they were
Well,
handling.
I think that's part of the footage that they lost. They lost a whole arc to this story, and
probably
I think
that plague attack that would have put them
because
on
that
the
was
radar.
supposed to solidify more what the Flag Smashers are and their global threat. To I mean that was a huge thing, but
because they hadn't really done much to warrant like Avengers level
correct
intervention.
Right. Are we on to stuff we don't like now, or do you have anything
no,
other
no, we're just kind of we're bouncing around like we always do.
Well, you said hi.
Do you have a favorite scene?
A favorite scene?
Is there a top moment
yes,
for you?
Yes. Yes. I'm trying to decide which Isaiah Bradley scene was better.
Okay. All right. We're on board then.
I think it's a tie, man. It's a tie between the first time Sam meets Isaiah Bradley and when he goes back and talks to him himself. Anytime Isaiah Bradley is on screen, oh my God, I was fixated.
Yeah, what's his name?
I was hanging on every single word. You're talking about the actor. He's the guy from he's the guy from Alias. Isaiah Bradley actor.
Carl Lumbly.
Carl Lumbly. That dude, oh my God, he was great. They even made on camera, they made him look like he was a super soldier, you know?
Yeah,
I mean, they aged him up, but when you looked at him, his shirts were tight. That dude was tall. He was built. Like you know, you were like,
put an ashtray through a wall.
Yeah, he could still get some. He was just so compelling. And I hate I'm always of the show don't tell, you know, but with the limitations this show had and COVID, I understand why they chose to tell instead of show. But at least when they chose to tell instead of show, Isaiah Bradley and his acting was the one telling. And the emotion and the weight of every word that man said was enough. Like, you didn't need to see him. In fact, people have said they should do an Isaiah Bradley Origins show. And, I mean, they could, but I don't need it.
We kind of got it.
He sold it. I didn't need to see a scene because I felt it in his words.
That's also part of his character development, really, is to not know like any fine details. Is like just know that he got fucked over.
Yeah,
like that's kind of a big part of
he shares enough
with his character.
Yeah, he shares enough, and it's so strong when he does, and it's so heartbreaking when he does, and then when he puts it back to the Falcon and saying, you know, they'll never let a black man be Captain America, and even if they did, no self-respecting black man would do it. And that exchange was from one generation to another, from one generation, and he was wrong so much, to Sam, who has spent the last couple years by the real Captain America's side, but fighting with the Avengers. He's seen the good in people, even though he's been fucked over in this show. But you know, he's on the other side saying, well, we got to do something. And Isaiah's like, man, I did enough, and all I got was prison and experiments, you know, and that was just such a compelling. I didn't want to see the Falcon try to convince him, you know, and I didn't want to see the Falcon agree with him. It was just like, it was tension, and I loved it. It was just really well written.
Dude, there was another moment where I kind of teared up, was when he saw the memorial that that Sam made for him.
Oh, of course.
Like that was another beautiful moment, because so first of all, the first thing that I thought when Sam was in his garden was like, hey, get cleaned up, I want to show you something. I thought he was going to introduce him to Steve.
Oh, same here.
Like, I thought he was going to be like, okay, Steve needs to know about this. Like,
and that might still happen.
I want him to meet the guy now. Yeah, it totally could. But yeah, that moment was great. I mean, like I said, there were a lot of great moments too. It's specifically around, like, again, with kind of around some of the weaker pieces of Marvel content. It pretty much always comes down to the writing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we talked about
because we had the best moments were just with like how powerful these characters actually are. And I mean, if anything, even if this show hadn't performed well, even if the acting performance haven't been good, we still got that 1 hour cut that Marvel released of Daniel Brühl dancing at that rave scene. So,
I know.
So I mean,
Yeah.
like, it couldn't have been all bad.
I had two things that I really, not that I hated about the show, but I have two things that I think were the weakest points about the show.
I don't have any hate points at all.
Yeah, I have no hate points. I have
some slightly dislikes, but like there was nothing where I was like, oh God, that sucks. I hate it.
I have two things that in my mind are the weakest points of the show. And they're both on this screen. One, Sharon Carter did not need to be in this show. She did not need to be in this show. I like her as an actress. I like her as a character. She even has history with these two guys. The last time we saw her, she was making out with Steve before everybody went to battle in Civil War. And her story was the most batshit crazy excuse for a story I have ever seen. So she gives Captain America
as fuck.
She gives, well, besides the reveal, I was waiting for the second reveal to say that she's been working for Nick Fury this whole time, because there's just no way you convince me that she has been living as a criminal on the run all this time for giving weird. Captain America his shield. Like, what? Hydra, we already went through the whole Hydra thing. This was after that. Nick Fury wasn't dead. Apparently, he was still doing shit. There's still plenty of good people.
I mean, he was blipped.
He was, yeah, but this is all before the blip, okay? She's been on the run since Civil War, and there's
Did she say if she got blipped? Like, did we get an answer on that?
No, she's been living through. She lived through the blip.
She lived through it. Okay,
and
I was pretty sure that she stuck around. But
if you lived through the blip, then shit went down. But yeah. This was after Winter Soldier. This was after S.H.I.E.L.D. was shut down because of Hydra. You can't tell me that there wasn't one good senator or one good person. Even General Ross, who's a dick, is still a good guy. That would have been like, yeah, she's not a criminal. She gave Captain America his shield. Like, let's bring her back. I don't understand why that was the crucible and that forced her into being a villain. It made no sense. And then, like you said, the way they danced around her being the power broker when it was clear as day she was the power broker, whether or not that was stupid, I think people just didn't want to believe it because it was dumb. But then, yeah, the reveal that she was the power broker. Oh, no shit. We figured that out 4 episodes ago.
It just wasn't believable, you know? Like,
it was just dumb. Yeah.
Like, I mean, like, I didn't. First of all, yeah, her motivations for having to be a criminal is like, you know what? I'm not on board. Because what's the worst that they would have done to you, you know? Like,
right.
After all that shit, like, it just, it just seemed kind of stupid. At the same time, you could make like a pretty strong argument. It's like, when a fucking super soldier tells me to do something, I'm not going to piss him off. He could rip my arms off like a goddamn Wookiee in a chess game. Like, I ain't about to fuck around with that stuff. It's like,
and not to mention her heritage. Her grandma fucking founded S.H.I.E.L.D. and you're telling me that doesn't have enough. Her aunt?
Yeah.
Wait, it was her aunt?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was her aunt. Her aunt founded S.H.I.E.L.D. And that's not enough brownie points to be like, oh, yeah, okay, we're going to let you off the hook. I mean, there were multiple years between the point she gave the shield to Steve to the snap in Infinity War. Multiple years that she was on the run. I get it, Captain America and the Falcon on the run, but her? Come on. I mean, that was just like, no.
Yeah.
Who would put her on a list?
It just didn't feel earned.
It didn't. And then her rise to power, I could see her working for the power broker, but being the power
honestly,
broker,
I wanted her to be some form of his competition, you know?
Yeah, or a double spy, like working for him, but actually working for somebody else.
I mean, or maybe take it, like, honestly, like the scene that we could have gotten with her around the power broker would have been Pretty cool to see it as sort of a comparison to a scene in Invincible that we're going to talk about. But I know I've probably confused fucking everybody, maybe even you, as far as what I'm talking about. But yeah, there are ways where they could have earned that with her. And it would have been like, she didn't need to be the power broker, honestly. Like
she really didn't.
She could have been just a major player on Madripoor, and like
living the
it would have been
life.
fine. Like it would have been completely fine. It's like, you know what? Yeah, she's on fine. I can accept that she's on the run from SHIELD and all that stuff. But if she was that high level of a fugitive, like I don't see an organization like SHIELD letting somebody like her become the power broker of all people.
It really made no sense. And I get it. They wanted to throw another reference in. Power brokers. A lot of people perked up their ears when they heard, "Oh shit, the power broker's in here." That, how deep into that lore are we getting? Apparently, not too deep.
The Wrestling Federation that Marvel has, right? I half expect there was a moment where I expected her to be a Skrull. Like, her to be the Skrull character.
Sure.
And then have that be kind of like the power broker play, to where nobody knows who the power broker actually is. They just need representatives. And then you find out that it is the Skrull who is the power broker and just keeps playing different parts all the time.
That would have been better. It would have still been like they threw that shit in there, but it would have been better. My other weakest point involved Bucky. The first half of this show, I was like, yes, we're getting into Bucky. He's going to therapy. I know you didn't like the therapy points. I like the therapy points.
I liked it better on a rewatch.
He's trying to make amends. He's hanging out with the guy who's the dad of a kid that he killed, and he's having a hard time approaching that. He's on the verge of crying in front of Sam, saying, if Cap was wrong about you, then he was wrong about me. And he's just on the verge of breaking. All of that was in the first couple episodes, and I was like, God damn, that's good. The rest of the season, they just forget about him. Like, by the end of the show, it's Captain America and the Winter Soldier. So we get the Falcon's transition from the Falcon to Captain America. What about Bucky's transition? If anything, he doesn't want to be the Winter Soldier anymore. He doesn't want to be referred to the Winter Soldier. He's the White Wolf. That's the name Wakanda gave him. He made amends. He took his book away. He gave it to the therapist. He doesn't want to have anything to do with that life anymore, but it's still cool to call him the Winter Soldier. So we're going to keep doing that. The moment that we were waiting for him to address that man that they teased in the beginning, they cut it off right before we got it was going to get awkward, but
so fast.
They gave Sam this epic speech where they just let him speak out. We'll talk about that. They let him speak and they didn't cut away, but then they cut away from Bucky's development time. And then they renamed it Captain America and the Winter Soldier. I would bet that Bucky doesn't want to be called that anymore. He wants to move on, and yet we won't let him move on. And I felt like the second half of the show didn't do enough to develop him. They just kind of, and he's good too, And I thought that was weak.
That was a tough one. Honestly, that's kind of where it was the end of his. It was the end of his. Like, he got a complete arc, but it didn't end with one that I'm like super stoked about. At the same time, man, it was so I had to rewatch. Like, I rewatched the entire series.
Mm-hmm.
It was short enough to where I was like, I need to burn through it. And on my second rewatch, I did appreciate the therapy scenes a little bit more. The reason that I wasn't on board with them was just because it was like the standard therapy scenes around like the tough guy. It was like, I don't want to talk about it. It was like, oh, I know you're lying to me. It's like, how many fucking times have we seen this shit play out? Like, every time. It's always like the tough guy who doesn't want to open up, and then he ends up opening up, like, after like cracking in a few places. And then like we've seen that arc before. I'm happy that we got like a complete one from him, but it wasn't a unique story. And so I wasn't as invested in it. like my investment stopped after during the episode where we saw him get freed by Io. And like because that was a beautiful scene. I was just like, Jesus Christ, where are they going to go with him now? And they really didn't top it after that.
No.
And yeah, when he came to the like I remember like I saw him walking down the hallway and he was about to knock on that door. I was like, oh shit, this is gonna suck.
Here we go.
Like I was mentally preparing myself for something that was gonna be heart wrenching. Mm-hmm. And then yeah, it just they glossed over it so quick.
They did everything but a hard cut, and I was just like, wait, that's it? Like, I mean, what?
Honestly, it was nice to see him back down at the bayou with Sam and like celebrating with them. It's like he found like a new family, you know. Mm-hmm. But they didn't like play it that way. They just insinuated it, and then kind of like left it to fester. I'm like, well, that's kind of annoying, but that's like what sucks about the show as far as Marvel's perspective is that I am now more interested to see more of Bucky than I am of Sam. Like I want to see
because you didn't get enough. Is that why?
Because I feel like it's not resolved. Like I feel like it's kind of like what you said. Like he didn't get his transformations. Like what? Like,
but I feel like they wrote it as if it were like he gave it back to he said, thanks for the therapy, doc. You know, like they wrote it as if he was done, where I didn't feel like that was as earned as
we're both kind of in the same boat that it doesn't feel like he's done. Like it doesn't feel like that.
Right.
And
he got shortchanged.
Yeah. I mean, not quite as bad as he could have been, but
no.
Yeah. Like it would have been, I think what would have been nice is if we had seen him in person talking to that therapist and giving her the book back.
Yes.
And like kind of while the voiceover is still going, the dialogue between him and the old man who he's apologizing to kind of see this process of him healing and going through, like that would have been a nice way to like end the monologue, you know, like cause like it was a transformative story throughout the entire show. We're seeing Falcon become a completely new person. We're seeing Captain America be a completely new person. We see John Walker becoming U.S. agent instead of Captain America as he thought. And then we see Bucky being Bucky.
I mean, like, we see Bucky, he's like, called the Winter Soldier. And at the end, he's still called the Winter Soldier.
I feel like it would have been like, because they even hinted at it in an earlier episode when they were like walking through the warehouse. And it's like, oh, you spend some time in Wakanda and you're White Panther all of a sudden. It's like, actually, it's White Wolf. It's like they hinted at it that might be what he ends up being called. And then Io calls him that again.
Yes.
It's like, what, like,
that's his name.
Yeah. Why wouldn't
the Winter Soldier
like, is a better brand?
Like Disney, somebody in the execs were like, the Winter Soldier sells better, guys. And I get it. That the last screen was a play on Captain America 2, Captain America and the Winter Soldier. It was a play on that title. But they could have then nixed out the Winter Soldier and replaced it with Bucky or something. Because clearly that's something he's trying to move on from, you know.
In my true fashion, when it comes to something that I feel like needs to be fixed, I think it comes down to the edit. That's what broke it. And if I had been on that editing room, like my first instinct would have been to have him start his apology with that old man. And then instead of cutting away from him and just having it be resolved at that point, have the dialogue continue. Like let them play that out. Like Sebastian Stan's a great dialogue actor. We know what he can do with all that. Like let that play out and then let that montage go through.
Little Bucky montage. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause he is then healing. We see him like physically, like you wouldn't even need him to see him physically handing the book to her. Like they could have kept the scene where he like left it in a gift bag, but the dialogue is still going over. He's doing the work just like Sam told him to do. We didn't get to hear him do that work. We just have to assume that he did it right.
Right. And how much of that is missing because of COVID? We won't really ever know. Yeah. I mean, we know that COVID was a major factor on the editing of this show. So I'm happy with what we got, but
for a voiceover,
I know
you can do anything in isolation. A voiceover is fucking one of them.
Right.
I feel like
that's true.
yeah,
Hell,
I feel
Ezra
it could have
Miller
been
filmed
fixed.
his Justice League scenes over Zoom, so
Yeah, it could have been fine. No, it just it bugged the hell out of me. Okay,
we
you're
haven't
bringing up
talked
Carly
about
then.
Flag Smashers at all yet.
Okay.
What I want to get your thoughts on Carly and the Flag Smashers.
Before we do that, I drank like a gallon of water today, so I need you to give us an intermission of some kind. Or
Okay.
I need you to
Here, I'll do a 30-minute countdown thing, and you can
a 30-minute countdown.
A 30-second countdown, and you don't have to be back in 30 seconds. But go ahead.
There we go.
All right, here we go, and we'll be back. I promise, we'll be back. He's not ready. Let's do one more.
All right, I'm good. Let's do this. 9, 8, 7, 6.
So we're back.
We're just back. Fine now.
So yeah,
Fine.
I did collect some pictures from the finale, and we talked about a lot of it, but let's just kind of go through. We haven't really talked about Flag Smashers yet, which is a mixed bag for me.
Sucked.
I mean, they didn't suck.
They didn't suck. I feel like a good ending got robbed from them.
Oh yeah, there was a whole arc. I feel for. Look, Disney was like, we can't delay anymore. We've already delayed our launch year. I don't envy the situation they were in. To be fair, Carly started out really compelling. She really
I
did. Think
like she was she was like up there with the compelling villain. She had a great motivation.
Yeah, they had a dumbass name, but once you realize, like, they had a trigger name. You know, it was like someone was like, what can we say that would trigger the most people the easiest way? Flag Smashers. You know? I
mean, I feel like they could have probably. I feel like they probably could have gone a little bit.
Oh, but that's, you know, in a time where people get freaked out when people kneel for the national anthem, Flag Smashers is going to trigger a lot of people.
I get it.
But once you realize what their story was, what their purpose was, it was really interesting. The fact that they lived through the blip, they found a way to survive. Now everybody's come back from the blip, but it's not all family reunions. It's people in power coming back to power, retaking the shit that they lost, and not giving a fuck about the people that survived all this time. You know, in fact, they're throwing them into the side so that they can move back into their mansions and they can assume their power. The world, you know, I get it's triggering for people that don't like border conversations and everything. It's very triggering for them. But that was definitely a storyline in this where half the world was gone. Nobody gave a shit about country borders anymore. Everybody was just trying to survive, you know, and I can only imagine what their life would be like if all of a sudden people came back and they were like, nope, the last 5 years didn't happen for us. So screw you. You know, we're going back to the way things were. So that was their story. And I'm like, all right, and at one point I thought that maybe Sam might even join them. But then things started escalating. People started getting hurt.
With her.
Yeah,
like
he was very
conversation with her before the arrest. Like, you know what? Like, he was doing it. Like, that was a great scene.
That was his job before Captain came into his life.
like he was like, you know what, I'm playing to my strength right now. This is what I'm good at. And like, this is like, while he was doing it, I was like, all right, this is what makes him Captain America. Cause he's not just trying to like this is where he differs from Steve, because in a lot of ways, Steve did try and punch his way through a lot of stuff. And like
Steve was the soldier. Yeah.
Yeah. He was absolutely a soldier. And then Sam is kind of the guy who's like, you know what, I need to have some like mental jujitsu here to deal with as well. And like that was
he had the empathy. His job before Captain came into his life was talking people off the edge, and it didn't matter if they were fellow soldiers or somebody in her situation. But he felt for her. He had empathy for her, and he was trying to talk her off that ledge before she stepped out too far.
It was like he wasn't like Sam isn't necessarily like a wartime Captain America, like he's a new war. Like I thought that was a great scene. I mean, that was a great that was probably the first great again, episode 4 in these Marvel series is where things like really, really blew up for me. Cause I think it was after our review of the first couple episodes. I wasn't fully invested at that point. Like it hadn't gripped me yet. And then episode 4 came along. I was like, Jesus fucking Christ. All right. That took a step. And then episode 5 came around and it opened with Bucky being freed. I was like, Jesus Christ, like, it's so good. But yeah, episode 4, it had John Walker's big, terrible moment. It had this great conversation between Carly and Sam. Like they really stepped it up here. And yeah, like they portrayed Carly as kind of, I mean, I don't want to say she's the Antifa character or anything like that, because there's a lot of comparisons are being made. But yeah, she's a young, freedom fighter-esque character who's like, she's fighting for her form of justice in the world. And it's against the norm. And it's very, I mean, the ties to socialism that it has are not, missed on her. Like there were some intentions to have it be kind of a left-leaning ideal.
Oh, so much so to the point where we finally get to the big speech at the end. If you're far right, you could miss the whole point of that speech, because you're gonna hear some words and be triggered, and then just we're done. Yeah.
But this is like, she is like an example of an actual extreme far left, like.
She's an extremist for sure.
Extremist, yes, that's the word.
Yes.
And it was compelling. Like it was incredibly compelling. And she's also like, she has Sam summed it up great. And it is also the formula for a great villain in any regard. And it's his line where he says, "Hey, I agree with your fight. I just don't vibe with how you're fighting it." I don't think that's I don't remember if that's the exact.
It was that's but close.
I can't get with how you're fighting it.
No.
And that is the formula for a great villain who has a compelling reason that you can absolutely understand, you can sympathize, and you can even find yourself agreeing with as far as the motivation goes. But when it comes down to the methodology being all fucked up, that is where it turns into a villain ideal. And they nailed it with her character, but they did not stick the landing.
They didn't stick the landing because I felt like they suddenly they lost the arc, and I feel like from what I've read of this other arc, it was a leap to go in that direction as well. But perhaps it would have fleshed her out. But she went from this, no one's listening to me. I've got to stand up for people. She's got these people behind her that believe in her. All of a sudden to killing people, and even her followers are like, there are people in there, and it was a little rushed, and then it was killing more people, and then more people, and then it was just, I felt like she had a strong start, but then the more they they just had her start killing more people, and it was just like, oh, okay, this is kind of rushed. I get it. You want me to think she's a villain. I get it. She's a villain. You don't have to have her just make these rash decisions just to move the plot along so much. And I felt like that. Yeah, unfortunately, that's what happened.
It was really like the final fight where it lost it, because they did a pretty good job of making it kind of gradual. Like it did feel like it was a gradual turn towards her, just kind of becoming more violent as things went along. Like a plan wouldn't go according to the way that she expected it to. And so like she bombs a building, or like she's getting more and more aggressive. She's calling Sam's sister and threatening his family and kids just for getting in her way. Like,
I thought that was a little heavy-handed, but
it was a little heavy-handed. But at the same time, like I can understand what she's doing, because she's like, he was the main obstacle in her way, and
sure.
But at the same time, he had like resonated with her to some degree. I really liked the line where she's like, "I'm trying to decide if I need to kill your brother or not." Like I liked that,
right?
Like, because
that
like, it
good.
is showing kind of an inner conflict. She's like, she doesn't really want to, because she also wants to prove that he was wrong about her at the same time. Like,
but I just felt
there
like
was a relationship there, but they kind of abandoned that a relationship that they were building. And then we get this final fight to where I just don't necessarily understand what her motivations are. She wants to stop this vote. These are the people who have been making everything terrible for her. These are the people who were going against every ideal that she had. She doesn't want to kill them right away. She wants to kidnap them, because we need to have like a rescue moment for Bucky to have to like bail him out of the vehicle, and like a suspenseful holy shit. It was like what
the end game was confusing.
What were you building to? Yeah, it was confusing. Like we couldn't really understand, and it really kind of took away from how sinister she was, because it didn't feel like it was like a really she had all, like, they played it up really big that they had all these people. They had a huge amount of followers.
The app and everything.
She had an army in New York. App immediately.
Yeah.
Where the fuck did that army go?
Right.
Nothing,
well, they teased it. They were in the room and stuff like that, but then it didn't amount to anything. It was just like they were there, and then it all fell apart.
It built up, and then it fell apart. But like it was almost like it fell apart from the inside. It was like Like it felt like this plan wouldn't have worked even if Sam and Bucky and Walker hadn't shown up.
Well, because I get it. You don't have to spoon feed the audience everything.
Yeah, no, of course.
But you have to give the audience confidence in you, and like I think of the scene from Skyfall where Javier Bardem, he's doing that whole Bardem. He's doing all that thing, going through the subway to the hearing and all that. You're not really. You don't know his whole plan, but you have the sense to, oh shit, he has a plan, and it's going down. Once they turn on the red lights, you were like, okay, what now? Like what are they doing? Like
they dropped it in like that was
they're putting him in a car and they're locking the door. Okay, what how is this going to stop anything?
I was expecting like an effective hostage situation.
Yes, or a big speech, or like something.
I wanted to like see her get her message out there.
Yeah, like a trial on camera or something like this. Yeah. It just never got. Maybe the argument is, well, Bucky and Sam and John stopped that from happening, but you still didn't get the sense of it was going to happen. You just didn't know. And honestly,
they had built up another moment where she said, it was like, even if we die, there's enough in our movement to continue it on. It's like, if you wanted to build this into like another season where they're still dealing with this problem, which they did still kind of want to try to do until Baron Zemo's butler got involved.
Yeah.
They made it seem like they were going to have these characters, like this movement, the Flag Smashers were going to make a resurgence of some kind.
But in her conversation right then, you saw these two and one other person looking at her like, wait, what? Like they didn't even know what the plan was.
I don't want to die for this.
Like if they had a plan, you would think they'd be like, we're sticking to this plan no matter if we die. But when all of a sudden she was saying, no matter we die, they were just like, wait, what? So it didn't feel like there was a plan at all. It just felt like they were just running. And
I was gonna say,
I lost faith in their whole operation.
It was really weird for her to be in a Hail Mary situation when she had just hired on Batroc, and he gave them this ace in the hole against Falcon and all that stuff.
Yeah, and she had a perfect plan to a point, and then it just stopped.
And then she pushes a button on an app, and she had like an army of followers who were ready to go, and she had this like smug smile on her face, like this is gonna be awesome. This is how it's gonna go. And then we come to the finale. And it's like, what the fuck was your plan? Like,
Yeah, it was so.
What were you gonna do?
And honestly, and they'll never show this. We get a lot of behind the scenes all the time. I wonder how much of this was written this past year. Like, there's no way this was written past January 6th, but the parallels to January 6th were so apparent. I mean, they
didn't even but they didn't do a good job of that either. Like,
no, but the storming of the Capitol for no, it did no good. There was no in game there. It felt very similar. It felt so similar that I was like, "This is weird."
They accomplished the same
so
thing.
Weird. Yeah, and maybe that was the point, but it was just so messy.
Yeah.
But we did get to see this dude in all his colors,
and his costume.
This was
sucked.
What?
Like, they didn't.
No,
they didn't make it. They didn't make his costume reveal feel epic at all. They like he just kind of showed up and there he was.
He did. He just showed up like, bam, I'm here.
And it was like I mean, it was a great costume. Like, it looks fucking badass. But like, he didn't have like his epic superhero entrance moment. Like, it was just like
hey,
they
man,
almost well, yeah, but they almost acted like we had seen the costume before already. And I'm just like, hey, what the fuck are you doing? Like,
I think, there was a point where he flew overhead, and you're like, oh, they're teasing it. They're not going to let us see it. But then, there wasn't there wasn't your traditional superhero pose. Like, bitch,
I was waiting for my moment where like he shows up, the music swells up, the light comes in on him just right, like he saves some people or something like
you got it later.
That's like my tear up moment as it goes, and it didn't happen at that point. But the fucking costume's awesome. It's reminiscent of like the captain's suit that we saw in Captain America and the Winter Soldier. Like, it looks very similar to
straight from the comics. Oh my gosh, it's almost line for line his costume from the comics.
Well, dude, and there's a guy on TikTok who does like Marvel theory and stuff like that. I gotta pull up his name because I gotta give him proper credit for this. Like, he pointed something out about the costume, and I'm sure I'll find him here because he shows up immediately. But he's like, so he made a comparison between this costume and Cap's suit in Captain America and the Winter Soldier, which this has a lot of heavy ties to, and the stripes that are going across his costume. There's two there, but on Cap's suit there's three. And he kind of played that this is kind of a play on, is it this guy here? Yeah, Straw Hat Goofy on TikTok. Straw _ hat _ Goofy.
That's a name. Okay.
But dude, his recaps on episodes are absolutely excellent. But he pointed out that the two stripes instead of three is a callback to something the Air Force does called the Missing Man Formation. And it's when it's like a memorial for a past soldier, and it's got the two stripes instead of the three because Cap is no longer here, and it was like a callback to him, and it was just like, Jesus Christ, it's fucking beautiful. I don't know if they intended that, but fuck, it made me well up.
That is interesting. Yeah, that's a good theory. They did one
other being like Air Force and having Sam be Air Force and all that, like the tie-in was perfect. But yeah, they did such a good job with this costume, even if that wasn't intended.
They gave him two red what is it? It's not Red Robin. What is his little
wing?
They gave him two red wings, which is kind of cool. Unlike the comics, they gave him a simple way for his the shield to work with his wings. He can put it on his back. In the comics, he always had to carry it, which looked awkward at times. So it was a very slick suit.
I loved his usage. The helicopter scene was great.
Oh, yes.
The way that he used the shield, his fight with Batroc, that, you know what, if anything made me kind of mad, it was that one, because they built it up. And then he had, like, Batroc had this great line. Thank you, Georges St. Pierre. Like, he did such a
he's so
GSP,
great.
Did such a good job. But the robes do not make the monk, I think is what he said.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a subtitle.
It's a good line
in French. It's a great line, but then we don't get to see him finish that fight. And I'm
It
like,
was a
come
really
on,
weird
man.
cut from the fight.
Yeah,
And you
if
could,
anybody's
and
going to
then,
take him out, it had to have been Falcon, but that's not how they played it out. And I was so
and if
irritated by
anything, they
that.
played it out like, yeah, you're not as good of a fighter as Steve was. Because when Steve fought GSP, he put the hurt on that dude. You know,
Yeah.
GSP stood his ground for a little bit, but then he put him down. And if anything, the fight with Sam and GSP was like,
Well, I
yeah,
wanted
you need
that
to work on your
callback,
hand to
you know?
hand.
I wanted that moment because Sam was
Sure.
using the shield a lot. And that
Sure.
was a big thing in that fight was Batroc saying to Steve, be like, I thought you were more than a shield. And Steve, like, no, you fucking didn't. Puts the shield on his back and goes at him with it. Like,
Yeah.
I wanted that same thing. Be like, cause he was kind of like eking at him. It's like, you know what? The robes do not make the monk.
Right.
It's like, I wanted to see it. It's like without that shield, you're nothing. All right.
Right.
I'm gonna put it back because that's a theme that we see in so many other things. It's the same theme that we had in Spider-Man: Homecoming. It's like if you're nothing without this suit, then you shouldn't have it.
Right.
It's like let's see Falcon play that out, but they didn't do it. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like it. I'm not happy about it.
It's still
I can let that one go.
At least it happened. At least it wasn't like the last frame of the show. You know, her death, Carly's death.
Pointless.
I think was fitting. I liked it. I liked her death. She didn't get this speech. She didn't do the one world, one people, and you know, on the way out. When she died, she had fear in her eyes and regret in her eyes. And Sam was holding her. And then in his speech later, he says, you know, and this is triggering for some people, but in the context of this story, keep it in the context of this story. He says, you got to stop calling these people terrorists. Sometimes you use those words to get around the harder questions. And he called her a misguided teenager, you know, instead of an ultra villain, instead of a super soldier. At the end of the day, she was a misguided teenager and she was willing to take you on. And instead of just putting a label on her and saying, thank God she's dead, you should ask the questions why. And that was his whole speech.
And you don't want to see 2.0.
Yes.
That was a big one too. Be like, this was a super soldier, like a misguided teenager. You don't want to see 2.0.
Right. And if you don't address it, it's going to come, you know.
But that was also why I didn't want her to die. I didn't want her to get killed off in this series. I wanted Sam to have his moment where he was able to at least steer her away. Like I wanted him to kind of like steer her away from killing Sharon. Like kind of because like in that intervening moment, be like just to kind of convince her, because Sam doesn't know that she's the power broker. She doesn't know how corrupt she is at this point.
No,
it's like, and even if she had been trying to tell Sam that that's who she was, like Carly doesn't know that Sharon does. Carly doesn't know that Sam doesn't know that she's the power broker. Right. So I mean, who knows how that could have ended up playing out? But like, it would have been cool for her to like convince, and in that moment that Carly should put the gun away, and then Sharon blows her away at that point.
Oh, and well, to solidify Sharon's villainy, yes. I get that. I think that would have served Sharon better in this context.
Yeah, like that would have. It would have made more sense for Sharon to have been in this show as much as she was in that moment. Be like, you know what? Let's make you become a real villain here. Carly still dies and still has
that would have worked
like,
for Sharon.
Thing.
I think I liked the way that Carly died because it is exactly what Zemo predicted, that you're not going to turn this girl. All of your good intentions are not going to save this girl. You're going to have to put her down. And you know, and he didn't put her down. He was going to let her shoot him. Granted, he had wings that could have probably came in at the last second and blocked it.
Yeah, but we don't know how much more vibranium he's gotten here.
Yeah, we don't. This looks like padding. It doesn't look like a bulletproof vest, but I seriously doubt it's
Panther's
just
costume doesn't look like a bulletproof vest either.
Right. I doubt he was, unless she had a headshot, I doubt he would have been dead. But he was going to let her make that choice, and it looked like she was going to make it, and she went down with her own ship. And when he held her at the end, you know, it felt like, you know, man, you did this to yourself, you know, and he brought her in and respected her at the end, put her on the gurney. But at the same time, you know, like, I think she needed to die because she was willing to go down for her cause no matter what. And then we got this epic speech, and I think it was good. And I did like how the senators were like, don't, just because you're calling yourself Cap now, you don't know everything, And he's like, no, I don't. But we got to stop labeling things. You got to do better, and you got to stop looking for the quick way out of this, because you're doing just as much harm with your Peace Corps and everything. And we can't just super fix this. We have to really approach the problems. And now we're all on the same level. It was a great speech. It went on a little long, but it was a great speech. And meanwhile, you had Bucky over here just listening to it and like, damn, he is Captain America. This is a good moment.
That was what I liked about it. The speech itself, the words were great. It was the delivery that just seemed kind of cheesy, like all the important players just happened to be right there with the paramedic team. And he flew in this like angelic fashion.
Oh, for sure.
And then he just lectures these politicians about how wrong they were. And just like, it felt like a cheesy speech. But the thing is that it was the right speech to give.
It was the right speech. It could have been done in a hearing. I think it would have probably felt better if it was in a hearing after the fact, but I'm sure reshoots and things, and they just didn't have the time for it. But I'm glad we got it nonetheless, because people had their cameras out and Isaiah was watching it back at home, and it resonated with him.
It was just, I think the thing that I didn't like about it the most was that the other guy's only argument was, you just don't understand how complicated this is. Like,
yeah, well,
that was the only argument that he had with this.
But I feel like a lot of politicians would go to that first. Like,
he wasn't.
Don't act like you're a politician.
He wasn't like, hey, this is a pretty complicated political situation. Like, a few billion people just kind of showed back up out fucking nowhere. Oh, also, that shield's not yours. You stole that. We want that back. The hell's going on? And then to have Sam be like, you know what? No, this shield does not belong to the government. Like, that's not how this works. It was like I would have loved to have seen that, but they didn't challenge him on his Captain America-ness much at all.
No, he was definitely self-appointed. I was waiting for somebody to bring that up. I mean, I'm sure
I didn't need a government official to like grant him that title or anything like that. I didn't need that, because Steve stole it too. Steve took that moniker, like, instead of being like a show monkey, he was just like, you know what, I'm gonna make something myself. And Sam did the same thing here too, but I don't know. And it was, then the same cheesiness around his character also happened. And I was like, oh yeah, that's Black Falcon right there. I'd be like, no, that's Captain America.
Captain America.
I was like, it was funny.
How do you know he's going by Captain America? You're a dude on the street. He said Captain America to one senator, and everybody else like, no, that's Captain America.
But it was funny, but at the same time,
I guess he had the shield.
Like, this is cheesy.
He had the shield.
Yeah, he had the shield. He had
rushed.
the uniform and all that. I feel like maybe if we had maybe
one
even
more
a couple more episodes,
or even 30 more minutes to flesh it out.
You know what? I feel like 8 episodes is kind of like the right length for me,
Yeah.
Like
but that would have pushed the show to the fall easily. Feige originally called this an 8-hour movie. We got a 6-hour movie. So that leads me to think there was probably originally going to be 8 episodes.
I would like to see the 8-episode cut. Show me that, Kevin Feige.
Show me the 8-episode cut.
This was cut great. Came out and it was bitching. Give me the whatever cut for. Give me the good cut for Falcon Winter Soldier. Fucking call.
But Bucky calling him Cap at the end though.
That was beautiful. Good. That was beautiful.
That was you got the Bucky seal of approval, which was great. We already talked about this. It was short lived.
And it shouldn't have.
We already talked about this.
Them.
This at least was great. He didn't make a big fanfare of it. He respected Isaiah, and Isaiah saying, "Man, if you brought me out, you really don't think I'd be dead in a day." So he respected his privacy. There wasn't like he put him in front of a press conference or anything.
He didn't bring him a crowd or anything like that.
But he gave him part of the exhibit, which was that was powerful. So I didn't get a picture of John Walker in the fight, but John Walker does show up to the fight to kill Carly. he gets his shield. His shield lasts all about 2 seconds. That little makeshift shield that he made.
That's dumb.
But he gets his ass kicked. He kicks some ass, and then he gets put in a position where he either saves a truck full of senators or he goes after Carly. And he makes the right decision. Like, he even shows he's got shit in his head that he's dealing with, but he's like, man, you know what's right. And he goes to try to save him. And then those dick bags, flag smashers try to stop him from saving lives. And
I really wanted those flag smashers to be like, this isn't right. We shouldn't be killing these people.
Right.
But
instead, they're just like zombies almost jumping on him.
You know, when they were about to fall, I wanted that moment to be when, like, even the flag smashers stopped the fight and, like, helped Bucky catch that truck.
But nope, they wanted
nobody.
It was, but he had a good redemption moment, and then he even had some jokes with his Lincoln line, and Bucky's
doesn't sound good coming out of you.
Yeah, don't you say that. But he has redemption, and while I still think that she's secretly a villain, and he had
a little bit of redemption. Like, he's started on the path. I'm not going to give it.
He's definitely more anti-hero, but he definitely he even got a nod from Captain America at the end. He got a nod. I think
we got the best version of his character as far as heroic moments are going to go.
I mean, sure,
because I'm pretty convinced. I'm pretty convinced that we're going to see some really fucked up shit out of him in future stuff.
But in this scene, though, I mean, despite us thinking that Elaine is a villain and likely a villain,
Elaine,
you can't help but be like, this dude feels like a good guy. Even in this scene, he wasn't like, yeah, fuck those senators, I'm back, bitch. You know, he was like, I got a second chance.
Even in episode 2, after like pretty much the entire internet hated him, and everybody wanted to hate him, and then you see him like he's nervous before going out. He's at his alma mater, and like he's having these moments and talking about how nervous he is. He wasn't playing it off as cocky or anything like that. Like,
so he's very likable.
He was gracious. Like,
he doesn't feel like a punisher. He feels like a person who was put in a bad situation, and his, even when he was like, "Stay the hell out of my way," it felt like he was trying to live up to something in that line.
He was still trying to be a hero. He
put him in a position, and he was the lowest person on the totem pole to be in that position. Right. He didn't even have superpowers, and he was like, "Fuck, how do I do this?" So I felt for him, and when he got this, I'm like, good for him. Compare his arc in this show to Photon in WandaVision, and it's just like, who? Like,
I mean,
Monica Rambeau was like the most throwaway character you could have possibly created in that show. I know we're gonna get more of her, and God, I hope they write her better. But at the end of WandaVision, I was like, I don't give a fuck about this. In fact, if anything, she pisses me off. Whereas John Walker, I was like, all right, we got a little origin story for John Walker, U.S. agent. I liked it.
It didn't. Yeah. We can go on about that WandaVision finale still.
Yeah, I know. You got the stinger with her, and I'm like, do y'all really not know? Do you really even? I mean, I get it; they were bad guys, but she freaking acid bombed that one dude, and even Bucky was like, "Oh shit!" Nobody suspects that she's the villain.
Dude, where's SHIELD? Where's these secret agencies that she's been working? Like, I expected, honestly, I really wanted to see her jump into SWORD and be like, all right, this is how I'm gonna get involved. It was like, not government level crap, like real shit.
Yeah, like, I could care less about her. I really don't like that they made her a villain. She's a weak ass villain. She's not. She could be an intimidating double agent. But she is not an intimidating power broker. I'm like, oh, get off your phone. I don't care. Just move on. But this was a solid ending. These two on the bayou, at a family barbecue. That was solid for me. I was very happy for these two at the end. They're both smiling. They're both the men that Steve Rogers left behind, and they've both like found their way out of that hole. I still think he could have been developed more, but it was a solid place to leave them. And then they didn't even make it through the weekend before they've already announced Captain America 4 is happening. And we're going to see these two come back. So I'm stoked, man.
I mean, I expected there'd be something next. I expected it to be another TV show.
Oh yeah, I could do a season 2
movie,
of this.
But yeah, to know that they're coming back, I'm like, yes, good. I want that. I want them to come back. It's just kind of a shame that it's not to like finish cleaning up the Flag Smashers or something. I don't know. I guess they couldn't really do it that way in a satisfying. You know what? I'm excited for the future of these characters. Again, because that was how I felt at the end of WandaVision. Like I said, I don't have as many questions about where these two are going to go at this point. I know that we're going to jump into new territory because we're probably not going to see Bucky atoning for his past as Winter Soldier. And we're not going to see Anthony having to, I'm sorry, we're not going to see Sam trying to convince himself that he deserves to be Captain America. I think if anything, we'll be seeing him trying to convince others.
Could you imagine that in a movie? How rushed that would be in a movie compared to 6 hours on a show?
Oh man,
that's what these shows are great for. Yeah,
I can see him having a moment of doubt and failure after like fucking something up, but
sure.
And then Bucky like kind of putting him back into it. It's like, yeah, Steve didn't get it right all the time either.
Right.
But yeah, to have an entire film where he's having to convince himself again after having a 6-hour movie, essentially.
Or in place of like that would be rough. Yeah. So this did great in that. Yeah.
I can predict his arc more than I can Wanda Maximoff's. But,
sure.
But yeah, it's exciting. Go. I really want to fucking talk about Invincible now though.
Okay, well, we've talked this to death. My last thought on this is we've had WandaVision that we both liked, but we knew it wasn't the full show because of COVID. We had Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We both liked, but we knew it wasn't the full show. There wasn't the full vision because of COVID. I don't know how much Loki was affected by COVID. The fact that it's coming out in June, it had to have been affected by COVID. I'm hoping it wasn't affected as much, but man, as much as these shows had weaknesses, they had so many strengths, and I can't wait for the first show that wasn't affected by COVID because, Marvel's doing well.
It's also going to be nice to see Loki because we're not dealing with the current established timeline there.
Right, right. So he might have some more wiggle room and stuff like that.
We're getting to deal with completely new territory here because he's going to fuck with stuff left and fucking right.
Yeah.
And we're going to get like a mischievous, chaotic series, which I think is what we need. Instead of,
but I'm just saying Marvel's doing well.
Yeah. Marvel's
for being handicapped.
Yeah. That's a better way to put it. I think under the circumstances, Marvel is doing well. If these series had come out in this fashion without a global pandemic having like fucked up production so bad, I'd be a little bit more disappointed in what they've produced.
Right.
But under the circumstances, yes, Marvel has done well.
I agree. We've already talked for an hour and 47 minutes, so I doubt we're going to get too deep into this, but we can't not talk about Invincible.
I think we also shouldn't get too deep because the show's not over yet.
Right. It's only 7 episodes in.
Yeah. It's like, how many episodes of Invincible will there be?
Have they announced
8.
that? What? 8?
All right. So we have one more episode after this one.
Okay, well then let's not get too deep into it because it sounds like we can do a wrap-up episode next week.
It sounds like we can do a full season. All right, we've got 12 minutes. Go.
I have not read the comic. I've heard about this comic, but I did not hear enough about the twist. I knew nothing about it other than I've seen this dude's image before, and I knew it was written by the dude that wrote Walking Dead. So I had no idea what was going to happen. When it happened, I was like, shit. And I really do enjoy it. I really do enjoy the show. However, I think it's not trending on any level. And unfortunately, I believe that they wanted to hide the twist from the marketing. So everybody saw the marketing and thought this was just a happy-go-lucky animated superhero cartoon, and it didn't get on people's radar. Hopefully word of mouth will change that.
I think if the excessive violence was shown in the marketing, I probably would have locked on to this as well.
Hell yeah. Right? But they hid that because that's part of the twist.
Yes, that is going to go down as this show's biggest misstep is the marketing. Because it is absolutely excellent. I knew nothing about the show. I think there were 4 episodes when I finally actually checked it out. Based off of your recommendation. Again, you've pulled another win out of me. I hadn't heard about it. I really hadn't heard much about the show. Like it had shown up in some ads, in like on Instagram or something like that. But it looked like it was just like an animated superhero show, and it was just like, all right,
yeah. And they sold it like almost like Spider-Man level, like kind of campy, kind of family.
Yeah.
They certainly didn't sell it as a rated R, like boys level.
So
animated show.
The ads that I saw made it seem like it was aimed towards like teenagers,
right?
Like because it was like this high school era-esque thing, and it's really fucking not.
The first 30 minutes of the first
wasn't
episode
interested
are.
in it.
That's it.
It didn't really get me. Like they showed him in like high school, and it had like this animation style that it reminded me of this awful show that my sister used to watch when we were kids, and it was called Totally Spies. It was this awful animated cartoon where, I mean, it was a play on like James Bond level era spy stuff. Every fucking episode, it was these 3 teenage like Valley girls, like, and so it was marketed towards teenage girls. But they're also spies, and every episode they have some sort of high school drama. They also encounter a villain who puts them in a slow-moving death trap that they inevitably escape from, and then they get out, and then they have more high school, and then they have more like high school teen girl shit. The animation style looked so similar. I've actually got to look it up now.
What's it called now?
It's Totally Spies.
Totally. I'll put it up on the screen.
Yeah, the animation style does not look.
I've seen this picture before. I have seen this. I have not seen the show, but I've seen.
The animation style looks somewhat similar, but not by a lot. But at the same time, like it was a lot of like high school shit, and that was what this show looked like to me. I'm not comparing the 2 shows by any means, but I thought that it was going to be another like show aimed towards teenagers. It's just like I'm just not into that. Like, and yeah, based off of your recommendation or your press ganging, I will say, because just about every time we talked, you were like, "Hey, have you checked out Invincible yet?" Like, I'm sorry. Yeah, but I finally watched it, and man, it was excellent. Like, it was great. Yeah, the animation style in that does not look similar to it at all. But again, this is much older.
Yeah.
So who knows? But yeah, it seemed like it was going to be a completely different show to me, and that is probably partially due to the issues that they had with marketing. I also, when they advertised it as written by the same team that did The Walking Dead, I was just like, oh, so Amazon's now going to take a property from these guys and fuck it into oblivion, just like AMC did. Like, so it's just like, I don't know if I want to see that. And then I saw that Steven Yeun was in it again. Like, fuck, man. Like, how much do you want to get screwed over under these similar properties? Like,
they have really so many Walking Dead cast members in this show. Like, there's a ton of them.
They have celebrity cameos fucking out.
Oh, I'm looking at the cast list. J.K. Simmons, Mark Hamill, Seth Rogen, Walter Goggins, Sandra Oh, Zachary Quinto, who else?
Generous to call Seth Rogen a cast member, but yeah, he had a very short 1 episode cameo.
Sure. John Hamm. Well, most of these are 1 episode. Mahershala Ali, Blade. Clancy Brown, Michael Cutlets, so many. Chad Coleman, a ton of Walking Dead cast, and a ton of other people. Oh, even Justin Roiland from Rick and Morty. Lauren Cohan, Ezra Miller. The list goes on.
So what was kind of funny is that I was recognizing the Muller twins' voice so much, and I could not peg where it was at. So I looked him up, and I recognize him specifically from him voicing Jerome in Family Guy.
Right.
That was where it reminded me. But I also found out that he does the voice of let me scroll down in here. Like, he was the voice of Goro in the 95 Mortal Kombat, which is oddly relevant today.
Yeah, of course. Reginald Vell Johnson playing Principal Winslow, who he also played
Kevin Michael Richardson.
Winslow,
Michael Winslow.
Family Matters. Yeah, that was great. That's on the nose.
But yeah, Jillian Jacobs is doing a great job. Like, I hadn't seen much out of her that I really cared that much about.
Jason
since Community, but
Mantzoukas, is that how you say his last name? Mantzoukas.
I don't know. I love him. He's so funny.
That dude's so good. The League. Go watch The League if you haven't seen The League before. And he's also in Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Him playing Dennis Feinstein in Parks and Recreation is always funny too.
Yes, he's just a wild card. He's the definition of wild card. He's so he plays crazy so well. And when I heard his voice, I'm like, oh my god, they got that guy. This is great.
Then knowing that Mark Hamill is in here, it was just like, that's wonderful. Of course,
it's so good, man.
Mark Hamill in here.
They got a crazy good cast.
He's voicing multiple characters here. Who else is he? Because he's playing the costume maker.
Yeah.
IMDb has a dot thing on here for him. Okay.
Well, that's
episode list. All right, never mind. Yeah,
he's
Art Rosenbaum.
He spent a good chunk of his career as a voice actor, between Star Wars and today. So that's right up his alley. We'll break down. I feel like we can wait till next week to break down story, but the story is what's compelling in this. And if you watch the first episode, you're going to see so many parallels. There's so much about this show that, if you've seen Justice League or you've seen Avengers, you're going to see parallels. But then there's a turning point, and it just gets super dark, and it's not campy like Brightburn. It's compelling, and I really liked it. I was like, oh, I did not see this coming, and I don't know why it happened, and I really liked that.
It was really building like a classic superhero story, and then makes a fucking hard ass left turn in the first episode, and that hard left turn gripped me right away. I was like, okay, all right, this is real. This is gonna be something there. And yeah, me and Cece like had committed to watching at least a couple episodes that day. Because there were 4 out at the time, because we ended up watching for like 5 hours. God, what was it? I can't remember that. There was another point in the second episode that was really God, that's gonna drive me crazy that I can't pinpoint it right now, but. No, it's just like the left turn that it made reminded me a lot of The Boys.
Yes.
So if you're
and it's coming from Amazon, so they're not afraid to go there.
If you're somebody who enjoyed The Boys, I feel like this kind of like some of the tropes in this show kind of fall into that same vein. And in a good way, like not in an unnecessary way or anything like that. Like I feel like it was really.
And it's carried.
Like worth it.
It's carried by J.K. Simmons, and if anyone has seen Whiplash, which I love to death, that J.K. Simmons in part of that film. Have you seen Whiplash?
Yeah. Okay,
so in the first time that you see J.K. Simmons, he's like comforting. He's like, "Hey man, welcome to jazz band. You're gonna do great. You're up next. Don't care what the other people think. Just be you." And then 2 minutes later, he's throwing a chair across the room.
Why do you suppose it just threw a chair at your head, Neiman?
Like, I mean, the turn is crazy, and likewise, he has a turn in this show, and we're 7 episodes in, and we still don't have a clear answer as to what happened and why. But it's so damn good. We know what happened. We don't know why. We still don't know why.
We know why.
Maybe me and you are gonna have a conversation after this because I don't know why. But it's at least when it happens, it's not clear cut as in why it happened. And I just think it's compelling. It's really good and it's really violent, and you should see it. And we're gonna get into more depth next week. But I'm glad we're talking about this now because it's so good.
Now that we know that, again, here we go. 8 episodes. I'm going to stick to it that 8 hour-long episodes is the prime length for a television series.
Oh, and it's hour long. And if you think that's easier because it's an animated show, it's not easy to do an hour of animation. It's not easy at all. And sure, there's some shortcuts with this show, but it's not like it's good animation. And it's a solid.
It's very clear that they've worked their tits off to make this show happen.
And it's a solid hour. I remember when the first episode got done, and then it wasn't like an after credit scene, but it was after the title card. And I was like, oh shit, it's still going. And then the thing drops, and I was like, oh damn. And it was a full episode. So
that is the weird thing about the title card. Is that
title card comes at the end.
The title card doesn't really show up until his superhero name is actually said.
Yeah, I love that. It's
so
great.
It comes in weird places sometimes.
And it gets more and more bloody, and the blood stains from the previous episode are still on there each episode. Yeah. it's just a cool show.
What's also interesting is that there isn't a long, drawn-out fucking opening credit sequence or anything like that. Like, there's not an introduction to any of them. Like, I'm glad that shows are getting away from that in this streaming era, and this is another one that's doing so.
Yeah, it's that quick. Name slap. Boom. Get back into it.
Directed by. Here you go. Away we are.
Right.
I like it.
Great show.
We've got the final episode. Will be airing on Friday. We will talk about it in full. We'll talk spoilers. We'll talk all of that shit. Me and you are going to talk spoilers as soon as we drop out of live here. Because I either missed something or we're something. But we'll talk about it. Yeah. But that's going to be it for us, Nerf Herders. We appreciate you guys coming in and along on this journey with us once again. Hit us up on the social medias. Give us a reason to jump over there because we're really lazy about social media, apparently. But sure. Be a part of the conversation. Hit us up in those comments. What did you think of this episode? What did you think of the Oscars? How did you feel about Falcon and Winter Soldier? How do you feel about Invincible? But try and avoid spoilers on that one. Hit the like button if you like this video. Hit the dislike button if you didn't. Be honest, we can take it. And don't forget to subscribe so you can catch all of our future content coming out. And until next time, have a good night. See ya. Later. Enjoy.